As you can see from all the drawings that I've laid out on the floor here, I'm looking at station design again, and this time for the Linleys main station on the Linleys Garden Railway. About a year ago I shared some initial ideas about this station, and I've done no other design work really, but I've done some other developmental bits on the railway. Hope you've seen some of those videos. There's a playlist about this station, so do check them out. Hi, I'm Warren Brand and welcome to another Linleys video. The railway station buildings lie just beyond the main tracks. So the main tracks fall across this line here, this alignment here, platforms 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a joining footbridge which will come across the tracks here and join up with this part of the concourse area. I absolutely don't have all the details worked out yet in my mind or on paper, but getting there. First, let's look at some design ideas, some basic dimensions and layout of the concourse, the building types and general sort of overview of the buildings. Then I'll move on to some of the construction techniques that I've got in mind, options, opportunities, differences, how to and all of that. Sort of third section in this video will be looking at styles, colours, sort of general overall themes. I've got some ideas with that as well. So here goes with the overall layout. This is a full-sized sort of plan view of the station buildings and concourse area. The tracks, as I said, are down this part beyond the main concourse area. There's this footbridge like I've described that's coming off here. It will land at this point. It'll come across down to platforms 1 and 2 and across down to platforms 3 and 4. I've actually made a wooden version of that temporarily just to get some sort of design ideas. You might have seen that video. I am scrabbling around on the floor a little bit, just using the carpet as a big tabletop. Behind the footbridge I'd like to include a tall tower, something maybe a bit like this. Double-sized water tower on top with a bit of space underneath. They're sort of out the way a little bit there. I had thought about putting it over in this corner, but it might be a little bit too dominant. I've got other ideas for buildings over there as well. So that's the idea of a water tower, perhaps going in that space there. Along the back is the main entry-exit building, and on the right will be sort of a toilet block and a little office store. Let's go and have a look at the side building here. This is an open concourse here, and on the right I'm sort of suggesting that I'll have a building that's got basically toilets and an office, and this will be an entry-exit delivery gate to the side there. A little office and a toilet block, something in the sort of general design of this, so that's sort of there-ish basically. 2 doors, windows, etc. The little office here. I'll come back to that in a while. So that's likely to be on the right hand side here, single story block. Moving over to the sort of back side here, this is the main entry exit building for the station. Around the back here, sort of where the telly stand is, it will be foliage, just garden foliage, but I will include the idea, the concept of a station entry there, just here, and the way out into the open area concourse will be here. Certainly for the time being, the back sort of disappearing off from the model garden railway sort of modelling bit will be just garden, big bushes and shrubs, so I'm not worried about sort of beyond the main station building here. In the middle concourse area I propose to add some reasonably tall sort of gas lights, perhaps with some LED lighting in, just to fill in this space. And around the concourse area I'll include some general station stuff like some barrels, some trolleys, wicker baskets, that sort of thing, and probably some signage on the walls, notice board, so, things like that. Let's dive in and look at some of the details behind the side building here, at least to start with. So it'll have a top ridge line, ridge type of roof with gable ends. It'll have the 2 main toilet sections. This will be the gents with a window and a door. This will be the ladies with a door and possibly 2 windows. This will be a slightly lower office, sort of a bit hinting at the idea of an extension. So it'll be just a little bit lower with a window and a door. Have I done that the same way around? Yes. And this will be where the gate and fence is, which will join across somewhere here to hint at a sort of an entry exit route here that's not through the building. The idea is this bit, the alignment of the ridge will run through, but this will be just a little bit lower. And I've done a sort of a principal drawing here. This is the extension coming out this way, and this is the sort of full height main building piece. So the ridge line will be matching through, but this building will be slightly lower, and this piece of roof will be slightly narrower here. I think that works. I'll need to do some more accurate dimensional drawings to convince myself completely it'll work, and maybe make up some card models. Okay, let's move across to the main sort of entry exit railway station building. On the back here, it's going to be about a 3/4 metre long main building. This is very much just a plan view drawing. I haven't done any other detailed drawings yet. You can see the alignment of the ridge. It works its way all the way through. Don't yet know single or double stories. I'll come on to that. So this is a side ridge here. These are cross pieces. So these are building segments that feature transverse front to back. And then another piece here coming in the side. I haven't drawn any chimneys on yet, so there will be chimneys, sort of to match the idea of chimneys on the side building here. The main sort of design style I've got is 2 blocks of buildings joined with an entry exit through lobby. So this is a transverse block, this is a transverse block, and in here, through here, is the entrance from the outside, from perhaps a roadway, through to where the station concourse would be. I haven't yet decided how tall this building will be. I think the centre section will be 2-storey with these 2 dominant kind of gable-ended pieces of building here. So 2-storey in the middle. May well include some sort of canopy here as well, coming out from the main sort of lobby through route here, canopy coming out a little bit to offer some weatherproof protection, suggesting one of the gas lights will be in line with this sort of gable end. Similarly here, some sort of symmetry with that, so perhaps a bit of a canopy coming out here in the middle. I do like the idea of some sort of canopy coming out here. I don't know what the construction would be, whether it would be a pseudo glaze, some sort of plastic, or a tin roof, don't know, but something here. And the same sort of styling would be the same sort of canopy design on top of the platforms as well. The side section, so this piece here, maybe an office or something, and this piece here slightly larger, which could be an office or the ladies' waiting room, could be double-storey or single. If it's single, then the roof line would come and join into the side of the double-storey building here, so this valley line would not be there. The ridge would just come into the side. That's a valley line which would only be suitable for the roofs of similar height. Roof construction is very important in building kind of concepts, because you've got to make sure the roofs, whether they be ridged or flat or hipped or gabled, all got to intersect suitably. Well, let's look at some overall basic dimensions. The side office toilet block building will be about 450-460 millimeters end to end in full length, maximum about 180 to 200 wide. This will be slightly narrower to make sure that the ridge line of the roof is below the ridge line of this roof. Total depth will be in the order of about 550 probably, front to back, allowing for a little bit of space here and a little bit of back corner space here for the fence line and gate. The main station building will feel and look a lot bigger, certainly if it's a double storey in the middle. The end to end dimension will be at least 750 millimeters, probably slightly longer because I haven't quite worked out the sort of windows and doors here. Might have a door here which will make this a little bit longer. So at least 750, maybe up to 785 mil. Front to back will be in the order of about 220 mil, maybe 230. Got a visitor to help. Walking all over my drawings. Never mind. Supervisor. Okay, so I've said about the front to back. There will need to be some final details about working on the exact front to back to make sure that the ridge line of the roofs fit and interlock with each other. Well, having talked about some dimensions, the other key factor here is scale. And I have struggled, to be honest, in really nailing what scale I should be working to. Okay, some of the background. Garden railways are often a combo of G scale and gauge 1, usually both using the same track width, same track gauge of 45 millimeter. People who scale for 00 or EM or all those fairly tight scaled modelling features will know how important it is to scale down dimensionally real life into scale size. But somehow in the garden railway scene it's way more difficult. So there's two popular variants with garden railways. There are lots of course, but two popular variants that I'm kind of doing a blend with. So that's G scale and gauge 1. They both use the same track size, 45 millimeter track width. So that's fine. So I've got the option of running a theme of gauge 1 or G scale. G scale kind of generally considered to be narrow gauge railways, so the bodies are larger than the wheels and bogies underneath. They just look like narrow gauge kind of rolling stock. And then gauge 1 is a little bit more prototypical, generally more true scale sort. G scale is 1 to 22.5 and gauge 1 is 1 to 32. So on the basis I kind of run or plan to run, not at the same time, but at least have the option of running both. Generally, I've only got G scale at the moment. I'd like at least the infrastructure and the models around model buildings and other features around to sort of be sympathetic to both. I've sort of come up with the idea of doing scale buildings to a 1 to 25, which is a bit of a combo, neither one nor the other. Is that right? How do I know if that's right? I suppose once I start making it, I'll just get a flavour of whether it fits or not. But I'm going at the moment to a scale of 1 to 25. Let me know in the comments if you think that's the wrong decision to make, or whether you can advise on a better scale factor. Sort of nailing down some detailed dimensions. I've talked about building sizes. I can play with those a little bit, but what I've needed to do, at least as a get-go, is work out the size of doors and windows. So I'm currently working on the idea of doors, or the opening for the door outside of the door frame, sort of inside of the stone or brickwork, to be 85 millimeters tall and 45 millimeters across. Obviously the door frame takes some of that out to make the door less high and less wide. Windows, it's whatever seems to sort of fit, but the first window that I've mocked up here is 45 mil wide, and I think 55-60 mil height. It seems to be the right sort of proportion. So that's the sort of scale factor. Let's move on to part 2 of this video, all about the sort of construction methods. Still working this out, desperately trying to work things out with this. So these buildings are obviously going to be needed to be external quality. I'm not saying they're going to be flooded all the time, or I'm certainly not going to leave them out in the winter uncovered. But the concept is they need to be basically weatherproof. In the old days, when I used to do cardboard construction for G-scale indoors and in the loft, make it out of paper and card and glue it together with Yoo-hoo and Pritt stick, you know, all is fine. Cover it with a bit of paint, it'll just stay there, won't it? But outside, completely different kettle of fish. It's going to get damp, wet, not flooded, but anyway, it's got to be weatherproof. What materials can I use? Hardwood's an option, fairly resilient to weathering, especially when it's painted, but modelling in hardwood is not really practical, gluing all little bits together. So what else is there? Commercial products make their garden railway items out of composite card, plastic type card, or resin. All of those options are available to me. I don't think I've got the patience to minutely cut out lots of bits of plastic card and glue them together. It is a possibility, and I might end up doing some of the key features, the detail features like that. About a year ago I came up with the idea of using clay to make basic first go modelling pieces, then cast it in silicone rubber, use the rubber, you know, it's the standard practice, isn't it? Use the rubber to create moulds for pouring resin in. Still could do that. I've had one go at some clay, spent a couple of happy hours while the weather was less favourable the other day, and I've made one wall that represents this piece here, the back office outer wall, and it's relief made out of clay. It's drying, it's air drying clay, so it's easy to shape and mould. And you can see that there's a doorway here, window, and I've pressed in with card. This is the door that I pushed in. You can see how curved that is because it got damp, wet, all sorts of issues with that. Just wet from the clay, the moisture in the clay. It bubbled up a little bit, and on the inside there I had other little bits of card. This is all delaminated, this was thicker than that, pressed in for the door panels. So I've got 4 door panels here, and then the window similarly is pressed in card. You can see that that's bananaed a little bit, so that I rolled in and pressed that in, and I just picked that out with a knife once it had started drying, but it had curled, and you can see that the effect of difference in drying means that there's a slight bow to this wall. I don't think it's going to be hugely obvious, but there is a bit of a bow to that. But I like the detail. I just used a craft knife and scored the brick outline, and just puckered the surface of the stone brick just with a pinpoint. I think that worked out really well actually overall. Whether I'm going to do it for all of the wall pieces, I don't know. An option would be to simply weatherproof the clay with a good coating of acrylic paint or oil-based paint, and keep the models covered more so they don't get too wet. I don't think that's workable. Now that I've made that clay, I need to make a silicone mould and then make up a sort of a proper cast resin wall instead. I know other models in model villages such as God's Hill on the Isle of Wight, and Beaconscott just on the west side of London, well out of London, Beaconsfield area. Some of those really old models used cast concrete, as far as I can work out, sculpted concrete, and they've weathered really well. All they need is top up of paint, sort of paint features over the years. They probably cover up some of these buildings, but they leave them out all year. There's thousands of them. So cast concrete is another option. One option that I'm certainly considering is how to make the doorway and window sort of press-in bits if I use clay, or even if I don't. One of the options is simply to design them on the computer, laser cut bits that I need, otherwise 3D print. I've got a 3D printer. Each of the walls. Certainly more manageable in terms of time, I think. But one thing that I won't be doing is making these doorways out of card anymore and impressing them into the clay, because they just bubble and blister out of control. Well, that's enough for crawling around on the floor. So part 3 is the overall style of colour and sort of visual perspective in terms of stone, brick, wood, panelling and all sorts. So over the years I've always admired the Midland Railway colour scheme. Way back, the Midland Railway was formed of a joint of some very small railways in 1844. So from 1844 until 1923, the Midland Railway developed its own colour scheme. A deep red was a favourite colour for some of the rolling stock carriages and woodwork on stations, so I like that. Then in 1923, the Midland joined up with other more national railways to form the London, Midland and Scottish Railway, and they similarly adopted this kind of deep red colour scheme, crimson, deep crimson and cream, all sorts of different sort of ways of describing that, but deep red was one of the popular colours at that time as well. So I'm going to stick with, for the Linleys Railway main station, Linleys station, I'm going to go for what was kind of a Midland Railway deep red for the paintwork. Now, stone or brick, both were popular on the Midland Railway. Local stone was used where that was relevant. Otherwise, brick was brought in or made fairly locally. So I will sort of mix and match a little bit between brick and stone. I've so far sort of scratched out with that example block in clay, kind of a stone block arrangement. Not sure how that'll work out. I'll have a go at painting it and see what that looks like. I could do larger blocks or smaller bricks, whichever. I will do a combo probably of a little bit of stone and a little bit of brick, mostly brick I think, to go with the deep red. I don't know yet, I need to work that out. So that's it. Part 1 was all about kind of the overall structure and layout of the railway. Part 2 was more about the construction, and then part 3 was about the colour scheme and overall design. Hope you've enjoyed following along. Maybe you've got some thoughts and ideas, suggestions to make. Please do pop them in the comments box below. So here on the Linleys channel, thanks again for watching and bye for now.